Welcome to the Carboline Tech Service Podcast, the go-to industrial coatings podcast. Here are your hosts, Jack Walker and Paul Atzemis.
Be sure to hit like, subscribe, and set your notifications to on so you never miss any important YouTube content from Carboline. All right, here we are again on another edition of the Carboline Tech Service Podcast. I'm Jack Walker. To my left or right or whatever, it's Paul Atzemis. How's it going, Paul?
It's going well, Jack. As you can see, I'm in a different setting. You're still at the same setting, but we're recording. We've come out of the pandemic, and we have gone straight into Snowmageddon.
Are we out of the pandemic?
Well, I came out of it. I went to work. I'm in the office. Everything's there. So I'm working my normal thing at the office.
Yeah.
But this week, with all the snow that came in, we just said, you know what? There's no point in going in there and risking being on the road. So working from home today.
I think I blame you overall. You reveled too much in the good weather on this podcast earlier in the the year. So I think this is catching up with you, and it's all on you.
I guess I have to take that, huh?
The entire southern storm, the Houston no power. Paul Atzemis. It's P. Atzemis at carboline.com.
So as long as that is the direction we're going to go, that kind of brings us right into the segue for today's topic.
Yes.
So we've had some conversations and we've done some talking around, and it kind of led us into believe of we need to have a conversation about what can tech service help with.
Sure.
What kind of services, tech service is a group. Jack used to be in tech service with me. Mm-hmm. It's my group. There's 10, 11 guys that are in St. Louis in the tech service group. And several of them we've had on this podcast. We've had on Bill. We've had on Dan. Blaine has been on. I think Chris was on last year. So we're trying to get more of them on, just so that you can get, especially now that we're doing video, you can actually put a face to that.
You're going to put a picture on that dartboard.
That's right. That's right. And in a lot of cases, a lot of these guys, if you've gone along with the Carboline seminars that we've put on, the corrosion school or the training seminars that we've done on webinar, GoToMeeting type things that we've done since coronavirus, we did all those in video as well. So these are the guys who are in tech service, who are there to help answer any questions, to do anything. And that kind of brought us around to today's topic of what is the services that are available that we can do to help, especially when it comes down to starting up a job, getting it ready, putting the bid package together, or putting the spec together.
Yeah, I think one of the things that we've kind of hinted at throughout this podcast is how you guys are available, and you could reach out to them, and we talk about questions or things like that, but we don't really get into the nitty gritty as to like how you could maximize this tool that you have that is the Carboline Tech Service Department. You have a direct phone number to them. That's the 1-800.
It's 1-800-848-4645.
Yes, because you follow that and you get our same tech guys that answer and drive specifications. They'll help you drive your specifications if you call that phone number. So one of the things that I think we start with is we can really quickly talk about all the different avenues that they could reach you, and then we can talk about the services that happen after they reach you. So we just said the phone number. We always regularly give out the email address of technical service at carboline.com.
That's right. And we also have the chat.
Yeah.
And it is the tech service team that staffs the chat. And it's a fast, easy way, wherever you go to carboline.com, that little chat bubble that pops up, whether you're on your phone, a tablet, or your computer, it's the same group that's staffing that service.
And really, they're there for anything and everything product related that comes from Carboline. If you have a question on either end of a coatings job, whether you're the applicator pulling the trigger, whether you're the specifier, whether you're the owner, these guys are trained and have the knowledge to be able to talk to you about whichever aspect of the specification you want to take a look at.
And, an important point to remember, we don't work with just painters. We work with engineers and specifiers as well. So it's not uncommon for, we all know the big engineering firms, the big spec writing companies that are around the country and around the world. We are the global tech service team, so we try to stay as informed on the global scope of projects as well as just the ones based in the United States or in North America. But we can work with engineers, we can work with specifiers and spec writers to help them put together a comprehensive specification to make sure that, nothing is missed, that the details that are related to paint. And, one of the things that comes up a lot, we're not the smartest people in the world. It's not that we don't make mistakes. But the one thing that we can offer is we get to look at it from a different point of view. The engineer who's writing the specification is trying to keep everything in mind. They're trying to keep every single detail in, and things sometimes get missed, they get overlooked, or maybe they thought of it 300 times but forgot to put it into the spec. Where we get to look at it from a tech service side as a singular focus. How does this relate to paint? How is this going to affect the coding system? How does this affect the part that I have to deal with? And being able to stay so focused on that one specific spot gives us a different point of view. And sometimes we see things that other people miss. Along with, not that we want to be an editor for anything by any means, but when you write a document for school, you write a paper, you try to give it to somebody else to read because they see the things that you missed just being so close to the origination of it.
I mean, you guys review all of my documents, so you might as well, no, but I mean, seriously though. So one of the things that we've seen out there is, let's be real. It's not fun to be the paint guy. If you go to school and you've done mechanical engineering or civil engineering, you're not really worried about paint. You're worried about some of the other bigger problems that come into it. Well, we're worried about paint. And it's obvious that like we want to help you with the specification because we want to be on it, but really one of the things that we want to do is make sure that it's correct and that you're going to have a good long service life out of the coating that you're specifying or that you're purchasing as an owner or that you're using as a contractor, because there are lots of different ways to do the many different things that we do as painting contractors. And with Carboline, we are in it from everything from fireproofing all the way up into commercial grade paint that would be like a single coat acrylic. So everything from pop a can open and apply it to massive plural rigs that cost like 6 times what my first car cost, or probably 10 times what my first car cost. Let's be real. And the thing is that's the great thing about this team is there's a little bit of everybody from all the different walks of life. You have fireproofers, you have painters, you have chemists, and everybody working together. We have engineers. You have engineers. So everybody in that group working together really brings a cohesive view to any kind of coatings project.
That's right. And one of the things that we want to try to do is to make it complete and correct. And sometimes it may mean that we find an area that, hey, you know what, Carboline doesn't have the right product for that space. And I'll be the first one to tell you that, because I don't want to force something in and then end up having it be a problem. We've said tech service helps with everything. We're also the group that gets every single problem that comes through our group. I don't want them. So we're going to do our best to try to prevent those problems from happening in the first place. And the best way to prevent it is to have a good, comprehensive specification to work from. It has to be correct and complete. And the best way to get that is a lot of eyes reviewing it. And then what we're able to do is to pick up on those little nuances, maybe that something wasn't there, and to be able to say, hey, what about this? I may not have the right answer, but it may be a question that pops into my head that I can say, hey, here's a topic that I don't think was covered completely yet. And we're able to help with those kinds of things to just help keep a project moving. You know, we deal with a lot of them on the back end. And so you see those problems as they come up when a specification may have missed a part of the coding system, or something was specified and the job changed. And so now you have to do it. And it's always harder to try to make a correction after everybody has already bid on the job. Once money is involved, nothing gets cheaper. Anytime there's a change, it's going to cost more money. It's going to take more time. There's always going to be something that is affected at multiple phases by having to make changes as the project goes. So trying to minimize those really is something that's important to get at the front. You know, the better you can get those at the beginning, the better it'll be.
Well, it's like your own checks and balances, right? So like if you guys are the ones who are going to have to deal with the problem, if it turns into a problem, it's only natural that you guys are going to be the ones that are trying to avoid those problems from the beginning. I've said it a ton of times on this show that problems are something that we hate, that we want to avoid. And that's really the tech service guy in me from all these years of spending time trying to help people with the different facets of what we do. And you know, so if there's just a lot of different ways you can go. You know, we've talked a lot right now about specifications and owners and the engineers and what they would call you guys and ask you for, right? To try and get that specification right the first time, and a good specification to provide the very best. Or, you know, sometimes it's the economical, you know, you guys know the product lines with those specifications. So we've talked throughout the show, there's many different questions that we ask. Well, the reason we ask those different questions is we want to tailor that system specifically to your job. All right, Paul, we are going to talk a little bit about the SimStone System Selector Guide. This is a brand new document brought to you by Carboline to help you better navigate our secondary containment line. Paul, why don't you tell them a little bit about this guide?
Yeah, so one of the really nice things about this guide is just how interactive it is. This guide goes and it breaks down on dozens and dozens of different common chemicals that you're going to see in the industrial spaces. And it lets you know, we're talking about foot traffic? Do you have forklift traffic? Is this a truck loading zone? And it breaks down each system by what kind of traffic can it tolerate? What kind of system do you have to install? And the interactive part is when you go to the website and you go to the marketing page and you download this document, it's interactive to the point where you click on the button and it opens up the system information sheet for that product. So it will tell you about the full aggregate filled coating system, or a neat coat system if it's a neat, or a fabric reinforced system. Every one of those are linked right there to it. So there's no guessing, there's no hunting around. You don't have to know how to maneuver the website. Just click on that and it takes you right to the sheet that gives a description of what coatings are needed and how to order and generally install that system.
Yeah, so if you're a specifier and you're out there and you're working on secondary containment systems, you should use this guide, as it'll give you everything you need to know to write a secondary containment specification. That's the SimStone Selector Guide by Carboline at www.carboline.com. But as we look past the specification point, you know, all of our guys have some experience with all of the products that we sell. And so it would not be uncommon for an applicator to reach out to the group and talk to you guys about how or why or the right equipment to use one of our products.
That's right. And when it comes down to whether it be an on-site training, which we have done, coronavirus has kind of slowed those down, but we still do some of them. Whether that be for tank linings or fireproofing, those are the most common ones that we see that kind of training for. By all means, if there's an engineer who wants to see this training to see what happens, give us a call. We'd be happy to include you into that step of the process to be able to see, hey, what happens after we're kind of that function that happens in the background. As an engineer or a specifier, you get to see the beginning, you get to do all the planning, and you see the end product. Hopefully it all went well and it's something that everybody's proud of, but there's a lot of sausage making that goes on. And that in a lot of cases, understanding that, seeing that, being exposed to it will help future projects. Maybe to see, oh, hey, yeah, I remember we were talking about that this was a problem or this was going to be a sticking point. In some of the corrosion school classes that we do, we talk a lot about common painting problems and, things that you don't really think about, but, structures with back-to-back angles, where it's too tight of a space or they're too close together to actually get a proper paint system in between those two. Well, that's a space that you're going to have a rusting or corrosion problem with. Now, from writing a spec standpoint, I'm not going to see that as a tech service guy because we're not usually looking at the blueprints when we see it. But if you've listened to the corrosion schools, you're going to understand that, oh, yeah, when I put that part of the engineering process together, that paint guy told me that was going to be a problem. And there are solutions for it. There's depending on where it's at and what it is, there's a lot of different solutions. But if we can prevent it, that's even better.
Yeah, and like we discussed a couple of weeks ago on those episodes, a lot of the paint failures that do happen are actually something that happens during the application process, and your guys are available at that point as well.
That's right.
To help those guys, maybe it's your first time spraying Carboline stuff. Give these guys a call. Talk to them before you pull that trigger. Take 10, 15 minutes out of your time, and then you'll get all the confidence and feeling in the world for when you got to do it the next day or the next week on your job site. They have guys that are very experienced in the spray applications of our different products, and they'll be able to guide you to the right tips, to the right hoses, to the right, everything. Like we said earlier, we could be in a plural component rig that costs, a lot of money, or you could be in a single rig or brushing and rolling something. But, a lot of the times it's fairly straightforward, but that little extra nudge, or that, is this, I've done this. Is it similar to this? And those kind of things are all there, as a feature of our tech service department. And I think one of the other things that you kind of hit on too is, and this isn't exactly what your group does, but tech service as a whole from Carboline, we will actually come to your job and help you get started with a project. Make sure that you have some on-site training if needed when you start your project.
That's right. We've got about 16 or 18 guys around the country who specialize in on-site, whether it be troubleshooting or job startup or training, whatever that needs to be. Sometimes it's just you want somebody else to give you a second look at something as you're getting started, saying, hey, am I doing this right? And these guys cover, huge areas. They've seen all of the problems as well. We hear about them in tech service. Our field service guys see them, and they have to work through all that. They're in communication with us every day. We work as a team together to help, hey, what worked in the lab? What were you guys trying to do when in development? What did you see? Can I use this thinner? And then they go out in the field and they do it. And sometimes it's doing it with, a contractor who we have a good relationship with, who just wants to test out some new stuff.
Sure.
Sometimes it's a customer who wants to use this. It's a job that was spec'd this new product. And so our guys will go out and help them make sure that they understand it, that there's nothing that they're missing and getting the setup. Because again, everybody wants the job to go smoothly. Nobody benefits when it's complicated or has problems.
So I think that
we just want to help.
Yeah. So I think really that's kind of a good place to stop. And I really hope that you guys, if you weren't familiar with it before, that you realize that the service part of technical service is really the big part. Yes, these guys are technical. Yes, they know our products very well, know our industry very well. They sit on committees. They are tied into the industry. But it's the service part. It's another tool when you're using Carboline paints that you have that should help you out in your job. And like I said, whether you're the guy pulling the trigger or the guy writing the specification, there's somebody in this department who's there who will talk to you in a language that is comparable to your own. And I don't mean like English to Spanish. I mean like painter to engineer. And yeah, and so these guys are there. They're there to help, and you can get them 3 different ways. And I really think that that's one of the things as a company that sets us apart from other companies for sure. So, Paul, we'll see you next week.
All right.
Question mark? Oh, maybe not. All right. Well, guys, have a good one.